Altitude.
Newbie News.
Just trying to correct the situation.
Well, if you can't judge a book by its cover, then it just goes to follow you can't judge a band or a CD by its name. As we found out when the band Irving stopped by the Altitude Lounge.
Let's talk about your latest CD, Death in the Garden, Blood on the Flowers. Very heavy.
I find it uplifting in
I don't
a
know,
strange way.
it was very different than your sound.
Well, actually, this maybe that was perceptive. It's very similar to the opposite of the sound. It sounds we sound very happy, but actually a lot of the context is a little bit like bizarre and weird and surreal.
Would you say that it was a response to, the first record, Good Morning Beautiful?
Yeah.
There were a lot of critics actually called it very sunshiny California harmonies.
Yeah.
Do you think there was a conscious response to that?
This
to
is
say,
good.
Like, well, maybe it's a little bit more than just sunshine.
That's once again very perceptive, but actually it was just it's just like a line that Brian came up with, and a lot of these songs had I'll Be Dead Soon, The Longest Day in the Afternoon as like the chorus. I'm just throwing that out. I know Jen, Nothing Matters to Me. There's a lot of these themes happening. The Situation song is all about like kind of almost like negative situations or whatever. They just seem to kind of follow this little Hard to Breathe, The Look of Flowers That Are Looked At, all these kind of, and the Death in the Garden, Blood on the Flowers seemed to really kind of capture this kind of feeling we had.
Hey, Stephen, one other question on top of that. I noticed that when you do interviews, you tousle your hair a lot, and I was just...
Well, as you can see, I'm usually very primped. It's very kind of more like this. It's just in interviews is when this thing kind of does
He
its own.
actually requested a fan, but it was broken, so he's like...
Well, two. I needed one kind of come from the back
Right.
left and one coming from the back right.
And the
So
smoke
kinda-
machine.
You can have your way with me, or you can have your way with me.
So back to, I don't even remember what the question was.
I think we were talking about the name of the record.
But that's what I liked about you. I was like, okay, you tend to stereotype. I'm like, okay, they have a keyboard, so I'm thinking they're going to sound one way. Then I hear the name of the CD, and I'm like, oh, they're going to sound this way. And then what I liked about the disc is that it's a little bit of everything. It kind of you don't know what you're getting into, you don't know where it's going, and I like that.
We're really stupid individuals, so it's kind of like
schizophrenia going on there.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about that. There are 5 of you in the band, and from what I hear, you all take part in the songwriting. So does that have something to do with it? I would think it does.
The fact that we all have our own voice and thought processes tends to lend to more eclectic, let's call it, nature.
Okay, let's talk about recording now. Now, just from, I was reading that recording the album took a much longer time than you anticipated, and now after sitting down and talking to you, I can kind of see why a little bit. Why don't you talk about? Well, I think there's probably a number of reasons that it took so long, but why don't you tell us about that?
We had the opportunity after the first record to essentially have unlimited studio time, and that's something we've never had.
We're really rich too.
We're really rich after the first record.
Yes.
And that's something we didn't have the opportunity, we've never had the opportunity before. So we could, the concept, the idea was, let's not rush, let's make the record we want to make.
And that record turned out to be Death in the Garden, Blood on the Flowers. To find out more about them, go to thebandirving.com. Also, for their exclusive Unplugged performance in Altitude's Lounge, be sure to check out Live at the Lounge.